Good morning from beautiful Brisbane, Australia, and welcome to Group, everybody. My name's Linda. I'm a trauma recovery consultant, and I also work my recovery path with complex PTSD. The question's been asked in group or posed, I don't know why I've been triggered. And in order to work with our triggers, we need to come to a point where we can understand that we never know why. What we do is acknowledge that in the primitive part of our brain, in what's developed from our childhood, is that we have a fear response. So our brain developed differently in childhood. So everything that happens around us, so our eyes, observe what's happening around us. It hooks into the back part of our brain, in the primitive part, and we have a fear response whether we like it or not. And the sooner we can come to understand that it's our brain, it's not us, okay? It's not anything that we can change as an adult, as in the fear response is there. But what we do is first of all, we begin to understand that it's our brain that's had the fear response, irrespective of our surroundings. So I can be doing, for example, I come and do a bike ride at gym. I can be sitting there and out of nowhere I've been triggered, and I can laugh now, but at the time when it started happening, it scared the living daylights out of me, because I'm sitting there and I'm going, why on earth am I being triggered? I'm doing something that I've done repeatedly. So we need to understand that when people haven't had a traumatic childhood, or their brain hasn't been through trauma as a child, their first response to everything around them is, this can be managed, okay? Or this is manageable. Managed sounds so controlling. This is manageable. Whereas our brain will look at things or make observations, and our senses have blunted, okay? So there's a lot of things happening inside our brain that we can't control. So here's what we begin to do, is we begin to acknowledge, one, that our brain has been triggered and we don't know why per se, like all the details, and we can never unpack what happened as a child. But what we do is as an adult, we go, okay, my brain's been triggered into a fear response. I need to know what's happening for me internally and externally. So externally, if I can observe that I am in a safe surrounding, that's the first step that we go, right, I am safe. And we retrain our brain, I am safe. And oftentimes, because I've been at gym when I've been able to notice it, I've been able to breathe, so slow my breathing down, because our breathing rate is one of the first things that get affected when we get triggered by fear. We want to slow it down to 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out. Then we want to repeat, or I affirm, I am safe. Now, one of the next things that I've been doing is beginning to look at, sorry, I just turned my car off, beginning to look at my attachment response. So in the post down below in group are all the attachment responses that we have. So we can have freeze, fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Now, most of us have a disorganized attachment, and what we will find is the fawn response fits us because of, we can look at it, especially if you've had codependence in your life, look at the fawn response. Now, I've become aware internally. Now, this is where we can manage a trigger. Internally, my response is a fawn response, okay? So I look at it and I go, so I start asking questions. What does the fawn response for me mean? It means that with codependence, I start looking outwardly for validation that the decision I'm making is going to be okay. So I've become aware that if I go to change something in my life, or if I make a decision as an adult that I feel really good about, for whatever reason, my brain goes, oh, trigger, all right? So I have to work with myself, with my triggered response and what it means for me in attachment. So I know that my attachment is disorganized, and internally I can feel the chaos that goes on inside of me internally. So we also want to develop and begin to feel safe with whatever emotional response our trigger brings on. So what we had to do as a child was ignore those emotional responses. But what we want to do as an adult, is acknowledge what the emotional response is inside of us. So, okay, the brain got triggered. No worries. Well, it's not, but you know what I mean. I'm going to learn how to manage this. So what I do is go, okay, sit down and feel what the fear, what emotions is the fear bringing up inside of me. So I was just doing this exercise last night because I've made some decisions in the last couple of days that I feel really confident about, that are headed in the direction I want to head personally and with my business. And it's all combined for me. But what happened was, because they're big changes and because my brain has no idea how to manage the steps that I want to take, it really does trigger, oh, this is unknown, bang. And it levels me out into feeling like, oh my goodness, I haven't got a handle on this, or it's really hard to quantify. But as I sat there last night, I began to become aware that there's like about 4 different emotions running around inside of me. None of them feel like I felt when I made my decision that I'm confident in what I need to do to move forward. And I went, it's like a super highway going around inside of me. Oh, sorry, my back. A super highway going around inside of me with 4 emotions crisscrossing. And I'm like, but that's not who I am. Why does this trigger feel so overwhelming? And what are all these emotions about? And then I went, oh my goodness, this emotional highway that's been triggered inside of me is like, okay, now I'm going to start looking externally for validation for a decision I've made as an adult. And I went, oh, stuff that. Just no more. But until we sit down and recognize that this is what's happening and it railroads us, then we will continue to get railroaded with the trigger. I know I can never stop the triggers happening, and it will continue to happen because I continue to move into new areas in my life. But what I can do is learn to manage it and go, yeah, that's not happening for me. No, I know that these decisions I've made are healthy for me. I understand that my brain's going to go bang, fear response, but I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write down the steps that I'm taking each day towards the decisions that I've made, in order that I go over that written list and my brain goes, oh yeah, I can compute that now. That makes sense. Now, for our brain, it needs to see this order. Now, I haven't got every single aspect of it out for you yet. I'm working on it. But one of the things is our vision, our sight plays such an important role. Our sight, our eyes, what our eyes see hooks back into our cerebellum, which is right at the back of our brain, in the primitive part of our brain, which is the first part of us that is available as a child, well, as a baby, actually, and actually right back into the womb. And because it's part of the fear response, we can literally teach ourselves to observe what our eye is seeing, what our vision is seeing, and begin to know that it's when we put things in front of ourselves and we make a concerted effort. So we've made a list of the next decision I'm making as an adult, and these are the steps I'm taking. And as I look at that list and I memorize it into an order, we're using our prefrontal cortex. And because we're doing that, we can always keep going back to it and saying, no, I've got this list, this is what I'm doing. And I can guarantee you that if you keep doing this, it brings about an emotional stability within us. And when I say stability, I don't use it in the sense that, oh, we're emotionally unstable. We're not. What it does is affirm that we have an order for our day, and it makes our brain just feel comfortable. It puts all of our brain parts into working together and gives us this sense of security that we know where we're headed today. So for today, I make a list of, right, I'm going to gym, I go home, I do my next lot of exercises, shower, and then I sit down for 2 hours and do the next lot of work that I need to do. Now, when I reinforce that in my mind, so I make the list and then I keep going over the list as I think about it, my brain then becomes attuned to what I'm doing and it makes me feel safe. Okay, so not me personally, but my brain begins to feel safe that I have an order. Now, with childhood developmental trauma, everything is overwhelmed in the brain. Pardon me. And because of that, when we as an adult put everything in our day into an order, it gives our brain a sense of peace that it's never had from childhood. So therefore, it doesn't need to be triggered into fear because we have our sights set on where we're going, what we're doing, and what needs to happen. Okay? I can't quantify enough how important it is to have your day in order. And I do mine, and I'm only just starting to learn to put time frames around it. So if you can put time frames around it, great. It depends where you are in your recovery journey, whether you can put time frames around it or not, or you need to just be gentle, okay? Be gentle with yourself. And it's taken me a long time to begin to understand that time frames help as well. So don't rush, just put the day in order for starters, and the time frame helps the prefrontal cortex manage things as well. So we're helping our brain learn how to manage things each day in order that the triggers lessen. Okay, so as we give our brain consistent information, it then goes, oh, I'm used to that. I know that part. It means that the fear response doesn't need to be there to protect us. That's the bottom line. But all this information that I'm giving you is information that you need to go and experience in order that you can see that your brain can use this information to help you lessen how often you are triggered. So I've tagged Ashwin in this post too. Go down to his post. If you don't have Pete Walker's book, From Survivor to Thriver, go grab it because it explains the fawn response, and it also explains disorganized attachment and what happens with the codependent side of things. And the other thing is you can go down to Ashwin's post, identify when you're triggered, what your response is, and begin to notice when that happens internally, and then go back into these steps to work through, okay, when I'm triggered, these are the responses that happen. Now I'm going to put everything in order because I can see that I wanted to choose to do something different with my day. Next thing you know, my brain railroaded me. Okay, and it does. It's powerful. When our brain is triggered, it is powerful. It sidelines us, literally. Like yesterday, I made a decision, right, no more Facebook Lives like that I do on my main page because they take time to research. I need to put my time into other things for the moment. my brain literally triggered a response, and it unattaches us from where we know we're going. That's the simplest way to put it. And everything becomes disorganized internally. And I just went, oh my goodness, this is so powerful, because it drives our brain and our body. And I went, oh, far out, okay, yes, I know I've got more work to do. That's fine. But it is so powerful that until we recognize it, we won't understand that we can manage it, that we can choose to make healthy choices that put things in order, that help our brain go, right, I'm on board with what you want to do. And that's really it. We are, as adults, we are training our brain to get on board with the decisions we're making as adults. Okay? There is more to it from the brain perspective, as in understanding what the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system do from the fear response, etc., etc. But honestly, we can go into that later. For now, make a list of what decision you've made that you want to follow through with, and put it into an order how you're going to carry it through, and make sure that your brain gets a handle on memorizing it and goes, yeah, this is cool, we can do this. All right, I've got to go to gym and I've got to get home and do some work, and I hope this helps, and it will help if you put it into practice. And look, I've been on my recovery journey for a long time, and I still have to go back and do this process, because I keep being willing to make new changes and move ahead with my life, irrespective of what the trigger's trying to do through my whole internal system. Okay, so you can do this. I know you can. I do understand how damn hard it is and how frustrating it is that we lose time every time we're triggered, because it takes time to recognize that we are triggered. Like yesterday, I was like, why haven't I been at my desk working? And then as I was sitting there, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is running through my entire system and has shut me down. It's very frustrating. And yeah, can get emotional about it. But I choose to go, right, now that I'm understanding it, I can get a handle on this. Now that I understand that it will happen every time I choose something as an adult, because of how my brain developed as a child, I can do this. And for me, I will do this. I will have my life, irrespective of how my brain developed, irrespective of my childhood. I will have my life back. Okay, let's do this, family. We do it together, and we do it supporting each other, and we will get through this, and we will have our lives back. I got to go, Jim. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.